Hello and good evening, people. Welcome back to Spill the Tea Lou. Welcome back for a different sort of an evening show. We don't normally spend a lot of time, to be fair, on this channel speaking about Manchester City. Not only because they're obviously the city rivals of Manchester United, and to be fair, we don't have a massive following in terms of Manchester City fans in the chat, other than Mr. DJ Milkshake, who does rep for City in our chat. But we have mentioned them sort of briefly, we've referenced them, we've glossed over them. Obviously, everybody mentions the charges when you bring Manchester City up. We've spoken about them in terms of the Elliot Anderson deal, but it's always sort of passing comments. It's also always talking about them in relation to something else. It's very rare we just sit and actually have a chat about Manchester City, about where they're at, about what's happening. And I'll be honest, the poll results yesterday really intrigued me. Bear with me a moment. That intrigued me as well. If you don't turn on the socket, nothing happens. But yeah, so the poll results yesterday really intrigued me. Obviously, I touched on them last week when I was on Footy Judge Mo. And I just thought to myself, do you know what? Yesterday, I really struggled. So up until this point, I've been sort of saying, I think there will be a natural drop-off for Manchester City having lost Pep. Obviously, on top of that, we know Bernardo Silva's gone, and there's the potential that Rodri is going to be going as well. Whether he goes or not, losing Silva, who's a leader in their dressing room, as well as Pep at the same time, I do think creates the situation for a natural drop-off, regardless of Maresca or anybody else that comes in. And again, I'm looking at through the lens of what happened at Manchester United when we lost our most successful manager. Do you know what I mean? That had done it for years and years and years, which is what Pep is for City. So in my mind, I've been like, right, well, City will naturally drop off a bit. And then I've sort of, because of that, written them out of a title race. And then yesterday when we were discussing it, I was like, who's going to come second then? So I don't necessarily think that City are going to do particularly well next season. I stand by the fact that I think there is going to be a natural drop-off. Do I see who I think is going to step into that breach? Yesterday, I didn't really, if I'm honest with you. We were talking around it, and I was like, I do see some teams coming up the table unexpectedly. I do see some teams dropping off. Who do I see as it stands overtaking City and making the most of that drop-off that I think is likely to happen? And as of right now, I don't know. Now, there's still a lot left in the window. And so by the time we come to do our prediction show with Kai before the season kicks off, maybe I'll have somebody that I think will clearly overtake Manchester City. But as it stands, despite the fact I think they're going to have a drop-off, who do I think is going to step into the breach? And I don't know. So I thought, right, I need to take a closer look at City so I can make a more informed opinion rather than just sort of vibing it out, which is what I normally do on the channel, to be fair. So that is what we're going to get stuck into. There has been a few stories floating around. There's been actually a story about James Trafford, just that I find interesting. There's been more stories about Ayoub Buwadi, stories there about Pedro Neto, and a story touching on Savinho, as well as Tijani Reinders. So we're going to look at the stories, the transfer news, the sort of what's going on at the minute. And then we'll have a little bit of a look. But in the meantime, guys, I do have a poll in the chat. So on your way into the video, first of all, please smash the like button. Much appreciated. And it does let people know you're having a good time. Next of all, I do have a poll in the chat. 2 polls in one day. I can't remember. I actually think it was in season the last time I did a poll. Certainly it was a while ago. So where do you think City will be next season as it stands? Because obviously anything other than that, we don't know what's going to happen. So given what we know, get your reasons in the comments for me. I've given you 4 options, okay? So title winner, title challenger, top 5 comfortably, top 5 battle. So far, we've got 12% think title winner, 62% think title challenger, 25% think top 5 comfortably, and nobody has said a top 5 battle. I probably, up until yesterday, would have said top 5 group comfortably, / even a top 5 battle. Then after I thought about it, again, this is as it stands before clubs do anything else, based on what we know, I actually think at the minute I probably have them as a title challenger. Now, I'm teetering between title challenger and top 5 comfortably. And obviously where I land on that is going to depend on how the window finishes out for both City and the other teams that could be involved in that, one of whom I believe is Chelsea. And I'm telling you, I think Newcastle, I don't think Newcastle are going to be in for the title, but I think they're going to be a dark horse for European spots for Champions League. I'm convinced of it. Season's going to start and I'm going to have put the juju on them accidentally. But massive shout out. We have some super stickers, guys. Then I'm going to say hello to you. Then we're going to talk about the news. Rob Albert United has sent us in a super sticker. Let me see. What is it? It is the My Hero Super Foxy. Very cute. Thank you very much to Rob. Very generous donation. Very much appreciated. And of course, All Boxed Up has unboxed the show. What would we do otherwise? How could we have a show that wasn't unboxed? So thank you very much to both All Boxed Up and Rob Always United. Super appreciated as always, guys. And of course, I... Am I back, guys? Am I back? The buffering looks like it's stopped on my end. I'm afraid to say it out loud. Oh, really? Okay. Absolutely disastrous. Like, that's 3 days now that's been happening in a row. That is absolutely... So, yeah, Buddy says, big up, don't touch a thing. I'm just going to keep my hands where you can see them now. Don't touch anything. To be fair, and yes, All Boxed Up, I'm not touching it. Like, I'm just leaving it exactly as it is now. All Boxed Up says, all credit. And do you know what? Credit to you guys. Thank you for sticking around, because essentially we've just had, 10 minutes of buffering. 2 minutes of me saying hello and 10 minutes of buffering. So I do very much appreciate your patience. I do very much appreciate you guys sticking around and waiting in the chat. Because honestly, you've more patience than me. Boffman was it. I saw you asking for Boffman. Boffman was it. I was like, what's wrong with this thing? Why is it not working? If anybody saw the dirty looks that the computer was getting. But no, he's checked the internet. Absolutely everything my end is running like completely perfectly. There's definitely no issue on my side. So it has to be as Flossie said. If that many channels are having problems, then it's unfortunately seems to be YouTube. Bloody hell. So annoying. It's so annoying. I hate technology at the best of times, but when it just absolutely refuses to cooperate whatsoever, it's so annoying. And I mean, Guys, I'm going to just get into the show because I'll be honest, I don't know how long we have before the whole thing starts just crashing out again. So big up to you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for getting involved. Thank you for sticking around. And thank you very much. Oh, come on, Mama Flossie. Thank you very, very much for your super chats and donations. Absolutely so incredibly appreciated. Mama Flossie has sent us the celebratory pair. So hopefully it's not too soon. Hopefully this is the sign. We're gonna carry along. But if not, YouTube, book your ideas up. Do you know what the problem is with YouTube? They do updates in the background when people are using the platform, which means then that there's problems. So what I would suggest is this is probably a sign that YouTube are currently doing updates, because normally when YouTube start to do their updates, that's when we have these kind of issues. But massive shout out, Mama Flossie, the wonderful celebratory pair, incredibly appreciated. Thank you so much. Ray Ray in the house. Hello, Ray Ray. We were just talking about Arsenal fans earlier. I was like, I haven't seen any of my Arsenal fans in ages. I've had like such a little group of them, and then like ye all disappeared. So Ray Ray's back. Maybe the rest are going to follow. Go on, the Ray Ray, leading the way. Obviously, Footy Corner has been with us consistently, but the rest disappeared. So Ray Ray's back. So that's good, because it gives us a more, I think, coloured conversation when we have all of the different fan bases represented. But guys, let us get started before YouTube gets back in on the act. Now, the first story. Can you believe it? We're only getting to the first story now. This one is about James Trafford. So somewhat related to Man City, somewhat not, but I didn't really know when else I was actually going to get the story in. So here it is. But do we remember when James Trafford was linked to Newcastle United, when we knew that there was historical interest from Eddie Howe in James Trafford? And then I said to you, I was like, but guys, Newcastle have literally not done a single thing this window in order to try and get him. All of the stories are based on interest from previous windows and previous situations. This summer, there hasn't actually been any information on James Trafford and Newcastle. Obviously then, he completed his move elsewhere anyway. And then I saw a couple of stories, videos and different things on social media as well, sort of saying, he was one that Newcastle had missed out on. And I was like, well, they haven't really missed out on him, because they made no attempt whatsoever to buy him this window, as we know, because we've followed all of Newcastle's business and attempts at business this window. And I just sort of thought, that's a bit unfair because it's untrue. Now, supposedly, and according to Dominic Skur, who works for the Shields Gazette, and full disclosure, is a Newcastle fan, but he's an editor who covers Newcastle, okay? He also has a little podcast as well. But apparently, Newcastle stayed away from James Trafford due to the £130,000 a week wage demands. The combined wages for Hornacek and Yoan fall well short of what Trafford is on at Leeds. And I think that's very important, because I think for Leeds, he probably is worth that money to them. Because I think at the minute, or based on last season, Leeds look quite put together. Farke's a really good manager. They're in a really good position. I think they kick on, or at the very least maintain this season. So to bring in a goalkeeper off that level for them was very likely worth that money. For Newcastle to spend that money on a goalkeeper with the amount of players that they needed to buy would have been utter madness. And if everybody remembers yesterday, I can't remember which of the Newcastle fans, I can't remember if it was Foxy. I can't remember. May have been Foxy, but I also may be misremembering. But one of the Newcastle fans in the chat yesterday, if you're here, put your hand up, said to me, it was a lot of money. They thought 50 million for two goalkeepers was a lot. And my response was, well, given what James Trafford went for, it doesn't feel like that much, to be fair. especially in this window. Then I saw this story today about his 130k a week wage demands, and that is a spectacularly high amount of money. As I said, that works for Leeds based on what they needed, based on what Newcastle needed. It was Foxy. Thank you, Flossie. I never want to misquote somebody, like say, oh, this person said this and it wasn't, it was somebody else. But my memory's so bad, sometimes it's just impossible. But I think both clubs have done the right thing for them. I think it was absolutely the right decision for Newcastle not to go anywhere near that deal at that money. They've got 2 goalkeepers for less. I also think it was probably the right thing for Leeds to go and get that goalkeeper that they feel is going to be with them well into the future, is a first team level, and will probably give them, like, they're not going to have to touch the goalkeeper department for the next while. And they lost 2. Leeds lost 2 goalkeepers as well at the end of the season just gone. So they probably needed a statement signing in the net. So I think both teams have made the right decision for themselves. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's important. Sometimes when we can say, oh, well, that's a bad deal. But is it a bad deal for that club? So we had the discussion earlier on in the window. I wouldn't have wanted Man United to pay the money that Spurs paid for Mateus Fernandes. That is not what we needed to do. I also wouldn't have wanted Man United to pay the money that Man City paid for Elliot Anderson. However, our clubs are in very different situations. Those clubs are doing what those clubs need to do. I had the exact same attitude with the Morgan Rogers. If Arsenal paid that money for Morgan Rogers, I would have probably thought they were off their rockers, if I'm totally honest with you. Chelsea paying that money for Morgan Rogers, with their new manager, with what they're trying to change within their squad, I think probably it's still an enormous amount of money. I'm not saying it's not, but it makes more sense to me than if Arsenal had paid it. Do you get what I mean? Sometimes it's about both sides of it. So that, I think that's important to say as well. Tony is saying Trafford is technically just a very, very expensive loan deal, obviously referring to the buyback clause that was inserted into Trafford's contract, which, as we looked at reports at the time, was another part of the factor why Newcastle didn't really like the look of that, and which Leeds will probably approach slightly differently. Again, I just think the clubs are at different stages. I think Leeds and Newcastle are in very, very different positions in terms of where their squad's at, in terms of where their manager's at, in terms of where their club's at, in terms of just across the board, very, very, very different positions. And I think Leeds can afford to take chances in a way that Newcastle can't right now. So that would have been terrible for Newcastle because they're already having to restart a project. Imagine in a year or two, City activate a buyback clause for their number 1 keeper. I feel like Leeds, if they continue as they are and continue as stable as they are, if it were to happen, would probably be able to absorb it. And it might not happen. It's a risk they're able to take at this moment in time. When we looked at the reports at the time, it was reported that it was a buyback clause. The report was a buyback clause. Let me find out who reported that, but it was definitely a buyback clause when we looked at the reports at the time. But I'll double check it because I don't want to say it if it's wrong. Is there a buyback clause for... It's saying yeah, but I want to find out who reported it because that'll give us a bit more of an idea. I want to see who reported that there's a buyback clause. £40 million buyback clause in the contract when City sold him. Yeah, no, I don't want to know that. That's a previous one. That was when he went to Burnley and they obviously triggered it. So is there one in his deal? So both David Ornstein and Ben Jacobs have said that there is a buyback clause in the deal with Leeds. It doesn't say how much. So when they let him go to Burnley, there was a buyback clause, which they triggered, bought him back, and now have obviously resold him. But they have, according to David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano, included another buyback clause in the deal with Leeds. Now, obviously I haven't read the contract, so we're going by reports, but that's what they say. So I just want to double check that because I don't want to be saying stuff that's definitely not true. Mohammed, I love this. Go on, Mohammed. Mohammed says, hot take, Leeds to get a European spot this season. I feel like that's where I'm at Newcastle. I think I've just gone full down the line with Newcastle now. I don't think it would be crazy. I don't think what you're saying about Leeds is crazy, you know. I really don't. I think Leeds had a very good last season and they're so stable. And that's what we're talking about. When we talk about the title race, what we're talking about is Arsenal are so stable. Like, they haven't changed managers. There's very little change to their squad. There's very little change to what was a winning combination last season. And that's being pointed to because there's so much uncertainty and change in so many of the other traditionally big clubs or clubs that you would normally expect to challenge. So Leeds have that same consistency, that same stability that people are propping Arsenal for. So I don't think it is a hot take. It's definitely a hot take, but I don't think it's a crazy hot take. I think it's a hot take based on some actual information. Do you know what I mean? Some actual factual information. I think they're going to try and take him back when Donnarumma goes. I think they're aware that they're not going to have Donnarumma forever. And I think when Donnarumma goes, they want the option to be able to take him back, is what I think. That's my opinion. Tony says, I think Newcastle will shock a lot of people if we get this Froholt kid. He shows progression every year. I don't think your entire season is based on a player that you haven't signed yet. Personally, I actually think you're going to shock a lot of people based on the business you've already done. Based on the players you've currently got, the players you've already bought this window, and the manager that you've brought in, I think you're going to shock people regardless of whether you get this guy or not. I think he's like a cherry on top. I think he's an extra. I think he'd be an addition. I certainly wouldn't base you'll shock people if you get him. I think you're going to shock people anyway. Harold is delighted. Bodo are 2-1. Congratulations, Harold. He's having a great old time. Harold's got football back before the rest of us. Wes says, I think they become the new Palace, might be 11th or 12th for Leeds. I disagree. Although I need to do the list. I need to have a preliminary look at where I think people are going to finish, because I seem to think everybody's going to do really well. So other than Villa, I've wrote Villa off. So maybe by the time I look at it, I'll think that too. But I don't think so. I don't think they'll be the new Palace, which sounds like a bit of an insult. I think they'll do well, you know, Wes. I think they'll do well. Let me see. It was Foxy, yeah, no. United Mandem in the chat. Hello, I didn't even spot you sneaking in. United Mandem says, big up Lou in the chat. Priorities. City losing Pep won't be easy for them. Maresca has some big shoes to fill considering the trophies that club is now used to winning. No, I think that's an utter nonsense take. Sorry, buddy. I think that's complete nonsense. I think that's the opinion of somebody who needs to watch 2 days ago's video on Newcastle. People are not paying attention. Newcastle have signed 5 players. 6 players? 5 players. They've bought in midfielders. They've already brought in wingers. They've brought in 2 new goalkeepers. I'm telling you, people are just not paying attention to Newcastle. They're not. People are looking at what's popular, and what's popular is Newcastle have lost all their players. They're not actually paying attention. Go and watch. I did a video 2 days ago, I think it was, and it said the title was "People Are Sleeping on Newcastle." Go and watch that video. Genuinely, not just to give me a view, genuinely go and watch that video. You will find out more about Newcastle's window than you will from any other multi-club channel, because I'm talking about things none of them are talking about. And that's not blowing my own horn. They're just leaving out half of Newcastle's window. And it's baffling me. And then people are making opinions based on half the information, which I just be informed. Be informed. I don't think Newcastle are going to be anywhere near relegation. Not even close. If you're right, you can come back and say you told me so. I'll be here. But I don't think so, no. I don't see it at all. I would be gobsmacked. Absolutely gobsmacked. But look, football's football. Maybe you'll be right. Maybe Wes will be right. Maybe everybody will be right. But I don't think so, no. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. But they didn't. And I actually think that's what's better for them. They didn't go and buy 5 of the best on the planet. They went and they bought 5 really strong, really solid, really good players for really good prices. They didn't break the bank. The expectation level is lower. They're working with a new manager with fresh ideas, more energy. They're going into a fresh, clean slate in the dressing room and at the club. I think, and I might be wrong, I just think people, and look, my whole opinion on Manchester City was they're going to drop off because they've lost Pep. That's what happened at United. I'm looking at it through the lens of my club, which is what you're doing. You're looking at Newcastle through the lens of your club. And you might be entirely right. I just don't see it. I really just don't see it. All Boxed Up says, could be the 3 teams that came up could go back down at this stage, depending what they do, to be fair. Buddy says, I'm writing my boys off at the moment. I've reduced you. I had you guys, before the summer started, I had you guys, or when you got Areola. So when Slot went and you got Areola, and then you got Munoz like quite soon after, I had you in a title race. A month and a half later, I'm like, oh no, I've changed my mind about that. And that's what with each kind of transfer or non-transfer, or with the passing of time and nothing happens, we change our minds. So I, as of yesterday, had wrote City out of a title race. And as of today, when I've actually looked at it a little bit, I'm like, maybe, we'll see. Palace is in the house. Hello to Palace. Huge says, for me, Newcastle are a big unknown. Unknown is a good way, simply because they will surprise people, but the new players have to hit the ground running. And just imagine Voltemada not playing in the midfield anymore. He's going to be back up top with Will Asula off there. Do you know what I mean? I just think Mohammed says, who knows? Maybe United can go down as well. We live in hope. Love it. I don't think we can say they're not plug and play. I think we can say we don't know. We don't know if they're going to be plug and play. The same way, nobody knew if Santos was going to be plug and play from Chelsea to United. That's theirs. I don't think we can say they're definitely not, because they might. What if they do just start? What if they do just all hit the ground running and they're like a real team because they're not all superstars and ego? What if they're not in there going, oh, well, I cost 116. Oh, well, I cost 92.5. Oh, well, I cost 87.5. What if they all just go in and go, do you know what, lads? We're all in the Premier League. Let's just go. Like, let's go for it. And they all just hit the ground running. It's possible. They might not be, but it's possible. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I just love a surprise. I was like not bothered about Elliot Anderson, not bothered about Mateus Fernandes, not really bothered about most of the big signings of the summer, but all of Newcastle's completely unknowns, I'm like, they're all going to be superstars. Maybe that's my bias. Maybe I just love a surprise. I not hate so strong. I dislike overhype. I dislike when a player's like, oh my God, he's the best player ever. Even if he's a really good player, I'm like, oh, yuck. Like Game of Thrones, for example. I read all the books that he wrote, even though we didn't finish them, off Game of Thrones. And then the TV series came out and everybody was watching it. And it was the biggest thing ever. And I was just like, I'm just not watching it. And you can't make me. And then like after the hype died down, when nobody else was watching it anymore, I went and watched it. I've never seen Prison Break. I've never seen Breaking Bad. I've never seen Lost. I've never seen all of these things because I'm like, oh, they're so popular. I just don't want to know. So maybe I just love a surprise. And maybe it's all going to fall apart. But at the minute, I'm enjoying the unknown. So maybe that's all it is. And we do have to be like aware of our own biases. I'm clearly on the Newcastle side. What I hope is they don't push United down a spot or I'll be raging. This channel will be a different place if Newcastle start causing problems for United. Mohammed thinks Coventry could stay up. I know some Coventry fans that would be very pleased about that. Let me see. Tony says, we're extremely fast with fullbacks. With Hall and Livramento, hardly any teams wouldn't swap for our fullbacks. I would bite your hand off for even one of your fullbacks. I would trade you Dalot and Shaw for one of your fullbacks. You can't have Mazraoui because I like him. You're watching the wrong channels. I've gone through all of Newcastle's signings individually, all their stats, what they've done, where they've played, what their age is, their injury history, the whole shebang. Because if I'm going to pick on someone, I want to know. And that's why I'm actually supposedly doing this show about City. Because I had opinions on City and I thought, okay, maybe I need to rein myself in. I need to check myself. So we are, in a little minute, I'm going to finish off some more comments and then we are going to speak about Manchester City, to be fair. These have been great shows the last few days. I love it. This actually, genuinely, I've been so enjoying the last few days because we've had so many good conversations, so many good chats coming in. Mohammed says, I think even if we only get Barcola and another player, I still think it's enough for top 5, as I don't think we will get much injuries this year. And the new players from last season, I think, will step up. I'm of a mind with you, Mohammed. I think you need Barcola and a centre-back. If you get Barcola and a centre-back, I'll have you in top 5. I don't know where in top 5 until I see what the others finish up with, but I would have you in top 5. As it stands, I would have you like fighting for top 5. If you get Barcola and a centre-back, I would also assume you won't get as many severe injuries and last season's players will step up. And I think, therefore, that would bring you comfortably in the top 5. But I need to see that. So at the minute, I'm a bit iffy with you guys. I'm a bit iffy with United. Danny is in the house. Hello to Danny. Tony likes the look of Bamba, Alaji Bamba. He had excellent stats when we looked at him. He looked unreal. He was the one that was in the top 5% for, was it Ariel Jules? He was massive, his stats. There you are. There you are. You haven't missed anything. We haven't got around to talking about you yet. We're supposed to be talking about you, but I keep getting distracted. I may be a contrarian. My granny used to tell me that. My granny used to tell me that. You're such a contrarian. Guess where I learned it from? I'll let you in on a little secret, guys. My first word. Do you know those books your parents give you? And it's all your firsts of everything. I don't know if everybody's parents did this. My mom had a little book, and it was like all my like first steps, first words, first meal, etc., etc. It's all very cute, right? My first word was fuck. And I learned it from my granny. The same one that had the cheek to call me a contrarian. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Mr. DJ Milkshake did greet everyone, by the way, so we're all clear. Right, let me see. No. No. There's another one not been paying attention. And this is what I mean. People are going to get a shock next season with Newcastle because they're not paying attention. They have no idea what Newcastle has done this summer other than Bruno G to Arsenal. Just prepare yourselves. Just prepare yourselves. I think Shem would go along with this. My biggest question is Spurs chucked money all over the place, but unless the biggest outlay goes on their medical treatment department, the place will be a bloody hospital again. I feel like Shem would be totally on board with this comment. Mr. DJ Milkshake, Newcastle could be 5th or 12th. And I still wouldn't be surprised. But I think that's what Huge was saying. They are the unknown. In all of the unknowns next season, Newcastle are the most unknown. Yes. I believed this was done on purpose at the time. And now I bet they wish they'd done Newcastle Arsenal. I believed it was done because this was announced right after Liverpool hijacked Munoz. And then all of a sudden, it was like within a week, Newcastle-Liverpool was the first game of the season. I bet they wish they'd put Arsenal now. But, let us actually talk about poor Manchester City. I started this show way back before the Gremlins got me. And I said, we never talk about Manchester City on this channel. So today we're going to talk about Manchester City. And 41 minutes in, I've done like one half story on their ex-goalkeeper. So I'm going to do my best. I am going to do my best to talk about Manchester City, okay? This one, and this story's been ongoing for ages and ages, guys. Take your pick, whichever journalist you want to talk. I have Florian Plettenberg here. He's my wee friend at the minute until he does something that I think is stupid. But this is from yesterday, 11:30 in the morning. But as I said, all the journalists are more or less in agreement on this one. Ayoub Buwadi has reached a full verbal agreement with Manchester City. Negotiations with Lille are ongoing. Several other clubs are closely monitoring the situation, but Man City are currently in pole position. I'll be honest, I get what he's saying there. Other clubs are monitoring, etc. But it seems to be, at the moment, the only team in the actual race is Man City. That's what it looks like. It looks like the other teams that are closely monitoring might choose to come back in if Man City don't go ahead with the move. I don't think anybody's actually trying to rival them to buy the player. So they've got personal terms agreed and it's currently club-to-club negotiations. That has been the situation for a couple of weeks now from what I've seen on the reports. It looks like, barring Man City changing their mind, they're going to get Ayoub Buwadi, who would be, my understanding, their second signing of the summer, because so far the only player they've signed is Elliot Anderson. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know, Mr. DJ Milkshake, if I missed one, but do let me know. No, see, this is the problem. This is how I introduced the show. As of yesterday, I was writing us out of a title race. I thought top 5. And then I was like, right, but who's going to make the most of the fall off after Pep? And I couldn't decide who. And then I was like, I need to look at Manchester City now. So we are going to have a look. But. So, they've got Anderson, we know, and they're more than likely going to bring in Buadi, okay? They're the ones we sort of know about at the minute. In terms of outgoing, so Elliot Anderson was £116 million, and it's looking like Buadi, the last price I saw was going to be 100 or so. And I see there, Jeremy Monga, he's 17 years old. Is he coming in to be a part of your first team squad, or is he coming in to be in the underage groups? Because he's 17. Now, we've got Tynan Thompson from Spurs. He is going to do time sharing. He's going to be playing some games with the senior squad, and then he's going to be playing some games with the underage squads. I would have assumed Monga might be a similar idea, but I don't know. So you tell me, and I'll just believe you, because I don't know enough to confuse you or to correct you. Mr. DJ Milkshake is a City fan, Mohammed. He's right there beside you. He's the only one, though. Well, he's the only one that talks to us. There could be others watching. Mr. DJ Milkshake is the only one that tells us. Okay, so with Jeremy Monga, you're going to do similar to what we're going to do with Tynan Thompson, a little bit of both. So I've not been counting Tynan Thompson, who is going to be in the same situation, because to me, at that age, and when we're sort of time sharing with the youth squads, they're not really a new first team signing. So it's not to discredit City. I've not been counting Tynan Thompson for the same reason. If he was going to be full-time with the senior squad, I'd count him. But if he's time sharing, do you know what I mean? I'm sure you get what I mean. So the only full-time senior player that you have currently signed is Elliot Anderson. And likely going to be Buadi. But that is not all the business you're doing, because you guys have been, since Elliot Anderson, you guys have been really super quiet, because there's no way that Man City has only been doing Buadi this whole time. And I've been a little bit curious about what you guys are doing, because you are so incredibly quiet. So I put up this show. I had it timed to go, right? And then all of a sudden, all of these stories were on X about Man City. So Fabrizio Romano has said, Manchester City make direct contact with Pedro Neto's camp as talks start over a possible move. Neto among Manchester City targets if Savinho goes to Spurs, while he's also understood to be on Tottenham's list as a backup option. Deal also depends on Chelsea's valuation. So, Man City would like Pedro Neto. They would like Pedro Neto if they move Savinho on to Spurs. If Savinho doesn't go to Spurs, Spurs would like Pedro Neto. So that's where that's at the minute, according to Fabrizio Romano. And obviously a lot of it depends on price. Now, when Maresca first went to City and then the transfer window was open, everybody was basically linking every single Chelsea player to Manchester City. Enzo Fernandez, I'm still not completely convinced is not completely off the table, because he definitely wants out. He was one of the linked players at the start of the summer, and Real Madrid, who he wants, don't want him. I think he would probably go to City. I don't know if City would want him, but obviously you've lost Silva and are in the middle of potentially losing Rodri. Would you then go for Enzo? Or is Buadi going to fill in between him and Elliot Anderson? I don't know what you guys are planning. Honestly, I just don't normally pay that much attention to City, because they've got Pep, they've got the squad, they're really good, they score goals, they win things. I've never really looked at it more in depth than that, not in recent years. So this is probably the first season I'm actually looking at City. What's happening over there other than winning things? Do you know what I mean? So Pedro Neto, at the time that Enzo was first linked, was one of the other players at the start of the summer that was linked from a move for Chelsea player to rejoin Maresca, essentially. I saw yesterday, I saw on a City channel, a City fan channel. I sometimes, guys, go and I watch other fan channels. If I feel like it's a club I don't know a lot about because I just don't look at them that much, I will go and do my research and I'll go and watch what the fans of that club are saying because I think the fans know more than most. Are you looking at moving him on, or is that just a rumour? I saw there was, and as I said, this was a fan channel, so, you know, it wasn't a reporter or anything. Is there rumours of Nico G being moved on, or is that incorrect? Because they were talking about that, but I was passing through. I'm not so bad, Mr. DJ Milkshake. To be fair, I'm not so bad. It's it doesn't bother me too much. I know you're not supposed to say this, a Man United fan, right? I'll be honest, and I've said this on the channel before, but there's obviously a lot of new people here now. My dad's best friend, so one of my dad's really, really close friends from growing up when he was a teenager, like they're still friends, like my mama's friends with his wife, and you know, so myself and their kids grew up together. He's a Man City fan. His whole family's a Man City fan. His sister's a Man City fan, the whole lot of them. But like, they were Man City fans when I was a child. They were Man City fans like when United were successful. They were Man City fans like before Man City was what Man City is now. And I suppose for me then, whilst every fan base has some really annoying people, right? But for me, when I think of Man City fans, I think of my dad's friend and his sister and all their kids. And like, you know, they supported Man City when Man City were like out in the cold, when Man City were like nothing and nobody. And so for me, I suppose I don't have that. Obviously, I want you guys to lose and I want us to win. But I mean, I don't have that like deep hatred. Do you know what I mean? When I was growing up, my memories was like Fergie Wenger. So like for me, that's like rivalry. Do you know what I mean? So while you guys are rivals, my memories were Arsenal fighting us and kind of feeling a little bit sorry for City fans. And I'm not saying that to be patronising. I mean, genuinely, they just had such a rough time of it. And so when you guys started to do well, and people were saying like plastic fans, and you definitely have people that jumped on the bandwagon, as did we, I did sort of feel like, do you know what? There are some fans that have really been through the ringer with Man City. They've really been through it with their club that are now being accused of being sort of plastic fans. And they deserve, the fans deserve the success. The fans that have been through it with them, through the mill, through the hard times, they deserve that success. And so I think I probably, as a United fan, as I said, as a United fan, I want us to lose and I want us to win, and that's what it comes down to. But I also do feel a bit more like, just not like calmer. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining it properly. You're either going to understand me or you're not. And I've just took you all on a wild goose chase. We're having a little chat. Lads, imagine me with a few drinks. I just go off on such tangents. Imagine me with a few drinks. Gone. Absolutely gone. That's the one thing I wouldn't do. That's the one thing. You'd never get me over the other side. I have to say, hell or high water, I love my club, even when I want to absolutely shake some sense into them. Wes says, I wouldn't mind Neto. His numbers are up there and he's labelled injury prone when he's only been out a few games apart from a ligament a couple of years ago. Buddy, on the other hand, says Neto was pants. Savinho was way better. Buddy says, I've heard Reinders is going. We're going to talk about the Reinders story in a minute. That's the next one I'm getting to, actually. Apparently, that story about Nico G is untrue, incorrect, untrue. Fairs, as I said, I kind of go on, say, City YouTube channels or fan channels if I want to know a little bit more about what's going on at City. But I saw it on one of them, so I didn't know. You can't believe everything here on the internet. I think, to be fair, a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people feel that way. And look, regardless of the outcome of the off the charges. I think most people, that's the attitude they're going to have. As I said, I suppose I think of like the fans I personally know that supported City even when they were shocking bad. And I think, you know what? Every fan deserves a little bit of happiness. And I say that hoping United are going to have a little bit of happiness soon. I know. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know the difference. Ooh, have I? Have I not? No, just tea. Just tea and water. Trusty water with my big old water cup. Yeah. Yeah. That's a giveaway, isn't it? That's a bit of a giveaway. Lucky's with us, and Lucky is not happy with the transfer window of Man United so far. No. Palace Red Devil, bringing the vibes. Thank you. But guys, so we'll keep an eye on that Neto to City one. But obviously, again, we keep talking about the dominoes. The talk of Savinho to Spurs had gone quiet. It started to hot up again in the last few days. As I keep repeating, and I will continue to repeat, I believe Spurs need to sell before they buy. I think when they sell, that Savinho deal gets done. Then I think you're looking at Pedro Neto to Man City. Very interesting. Weakens Chelsea. Would he go? Would Chelsea refuse to sell him? Deal depends on Chelsea valuation, which I think would be incredibly high. I mean, if they think Enzo Fernandez is worth... They said 120 million for Enzo Fernandez before the World Cup. I wonder, do they still think 120 million for Enzo Fernandez? That'll be interesting. That will be interesting. The next story is kind of what you guys are touching on there. Where'd it go? Yes, Fabrizio Romano. Nottingham Forest are showing interest in Tijjani Reinders as new midfielder from Manchester City. He's on the shortlist after also Newcastle has shown interest in June. Guys, that was June, this is August. So Nottingham Forest are currently interested in Tijjani Reinders. Once upon a time, one day forever ago, Newcastle were also linked to him, but they've obviously bought multiple other players since then. We need, Mr. DJ Milkshake there is saying Man United's window is good. They need to raise the floor before they can raise the ceiling. Build the foundation first. I agree with your sentiment. We definitely do need we need to raise everything, and we definitely need to build a foundation. The fact is, we needed 6 or 7 players coming into this window. We've got 2 outfield players. We needed 6 or 7. It's just not enough. It's just not enough. What we've got is good, but there's not enough. Quality, tick. Quantity, big Olex. That's the problem with United at the minute. Huge is on board with Lucky. Sick of this trash window. I love when Lucky just tells us how he feels. It's actually quite cathartic. But that would be, what do we reckon to that? Do we think Tijjani Reinders to Nottingham Forest? We know they've bloody well got the money. What do we reckon to that? Good move, bad move, possible? Mr. DJ Milkshake, I keep going to you because you're the Man City fan in the chat, so you're getting all the opinions. You're representing the Manchester City fan base at Teacup Castle. Reinders is likely going. I'd like to see him get another year. If his finishing was better, no one would be sagging him off. He missed about 8 setters. And see, that's it. See, once people turn on you, that's it. Once people turn on you, they've turned on you. But it would be a good move for Nottingham Forest, who obviously want to stay in the league now and not drop back down. And obviously they've lost a key player for them. So to bring somebody in with Premier League experience, with experience at a big, big team, for much less than you guys gave them for Elliot Anderson, it feels like a win for Nottingham Forest, but it also doesn't feel like necessarily a terrible deal for Manchester City. So if that one happens, cool. But I do want to get into the question that I have in the poll. So the poll reads, Where do you think City will be next season as it stands? Get your reasons in the comments. As it stands, 23% of you think they'll be the title winner. That's quite good. That's just under a quarter think you'll win the title. 47%, so just under half, think title challenger. 13% think top 5 group comfortably. And 17% think top 5 battle. So that's where the poll is. I think prior to looking into the stuff for the show, prior to sort of yesterday, I was thinking top 5, around there. Based on now, right now, this minute, I feel like title challenger, but I keep changing my mind. And the reason I keep changing my mind is because I do think, forget who you've got in, when you lose a manager like Pep, there is a drop-off. That's it. Then Silva, another leader, not just what he does on the pitch, but another leader, another experienced head, mature head, person who would have brought stability in your dressing room, gone. Potentially, Rodri, again, not only what he brings on the pitch, but what he brings off the pitch, the stability, all of that could potentially be gone. At the minute, it looks likely, but we don't know, but could be gone also. You've brought in Elliot Anderson, and I have consistently said this, even when United were linked to him. Way back, I said, I think Elliot Anderson is overrated. I think he's a good player. I think he's a decent player. I think he will bring positives to your team. I think he'll do well, but I think he's overrated. I think he's been deemed this incredible, sensational, world-class player. I think he's very good. I don't think he's spectacular. And I definitely don't think that he, as it stands, fills the shoes that are being left in the off pitch, in the leadership, in the knowledge of the club, all that sort of a stuff. And that can't be overestimated, the impact of that. Again, if you bring in Ayoub Buwadi, he was one, I haven't seen anything really of him outside the World Cup. When I watched him in the World Cup, I didn't understand what all the fuss was about. But that can be difficult to see in a World Cup because I think how people play in international football and how they play for clubs is quite different. So, as it stands, I don't see the fuss about Buwadi. If I see him in the Premier League, I might go, okay, now I see what people are talking about. But for me, he's a little unknown. But I think based on what we know about your business, Ayoub Buwadi and Elliot Anderson, and based on what we know of what you've left, right? So you've lost Pep, you've brought in Maresca. You've lost Silva, you've brought in Elliot Anderson. You're potentially about to lose Rodri. You're potentially about to bring Ayoub Buwadi. For me, all of those are steps down. So to me, that naturally gives drop-off. If we then look at the fact that last season, while you did push Arsenal all the way, because we were looking at cup finals would be the decider, no, it was really coming down to who's going to lose a match here or there, fine margins right at the end of the season. But you didn't win it last season with all of those things. So if you then came second last season and there's going to be a natural drop, it feels logical that puts you in a comfortable top 5 outside challengers kind of thing in the title. Where I challenge my own opinion, I suppose, is I've based a lot of the managerial part on what we saw after Fergie at United. The thing is, I don't think Maresca is going to do after Pep what was done after Fergie. I think Maresca, who's obviously a disciple of Pep, who works like Pep, who has worked under Pep, who has worked at Man City previously, is going to come in and try and undo everything that Pep has done. There's going to be more continuity than there was at Man United after Fergie. And I also think there's going to be more continuity than there was at Liverpool after Klopp. Because I think it was Buddy there asked me in the chat, oh, well, say that to Arne Slot. He came in and won in his first season. I'm one of the people, you might disagree, but I'm one of the people who believes that momentum, that team was built by Klopp. And I believe the momentum and the lack of change and the players carried it over the line. The minute Slot tried to change anything, all that momentum was lost and the whole thing fell apart. So, if Maresca does what Slot did in the first season and sort of it's a continuity, he kind of continues in the same vein as what they were doing under Pep, which he's very likely to do, that will eradicate some of the drop-off because they're going to be continuing to do something they're already familiar with and he's already familiar with. So I think that counteracts some of the new manager changeover. Not all of it, but a big old chunk of it. He's familiar with the club. He's familiar with Pep's style. He's worked under Pep. He works very much in the same vein as Pep. There's much more continuation. I think that does counteract some of the drop-off. It doesn't counteract some of the leadership personalities that you're losing. And I think, again, we're back to the unknown. It's very much about whether the players that are staying can rally together to continue even without that sort of leadership. So when Salah fell off, when Van Dijk had a bad season and Slot then made changes, that's where it all fell apart at Liverpool. If Maresca doesn't make changes, the personnel can still end up being an issue. If you've lost some of your major players and then say you get an injury, say you get, somebody gets a suspension, do you know what I mean? Extenuating circumstances, it can just flip it. But I'm slightly less convinced that you're going to fall off than I was yesterday. That might change again tomorrow. If you get Pedro Neto, I think that's a big step. I do. I think that's a big step, if I'm honest with you. I think that would be a real positive. But, as you can tell, I just keep changing my mind. I do still think there's a drop, but maybe not quite as big as I was first anticipating. Unfortunately. Africa King is in the house. Hello to you. Mr. DJ Milkshake says, Doku was much better at the end of the season. Kushinov and Vardial look amazing together. Turkey will be better and Haaland. Question for you on Haaland. It was no secret, when he first came to you, he sort of said, look, I'm going to come to City for a couple of years or a few years, and then I'm going to move on to Spain. He's always said that. It's not a secret. He's been very open about that. Do you think after next season he moves on? Do you think now, look, he's come, he's done it, he's seen it, Pep's gone, some of the other big players are gone, he's obviously not going this summer. Do you think there's a possibility he goes next summer, or do you think he wants to win before he goes? Let me know. I'm just curious. So you reckon 2 more seasons? I'm undecided. It's hard to tell. The thing is, you always know that he's going because he's always said it. It's never been a secret. That's what I thought. I thought maybe he's going to give it this season. He doesn't want to go when everybody else is leaving. Get Maresca in through the door, let under the table. And then once he's done that, maybe he goes next summer. but it could be 2 more seasons. I'm undecided. I think he's, to be fair, I think he's the type of player that would be dedicated right till the end. I think even if he knew he was going, say for example, he knew this was his last season and he was going to go the season after, I think he would stay dedicated to the cause. I don't think he's the type of player that would know, oh, well, I'm going, and lose focus. I actually think that would drive him on more. We all want him to move on, but no, genuinely, given that he's never intended to stay, I think it makes sense for him now that Pep is gone that he might start to look and to move on, because he's done 2 seasons. Is it this will be his 3rd season, or am I missing one? This upcoming season is his 3rd season. 3 feels like a round number. If he's coming in having said I'm going to do a few seasons, 3 is a few. Pep moves on, genuinely, I think he might. I definitely want him to. I'd like him to move on this summer because honestly, I actually see his personality. He's really funny. I really like him. And it's horrible because he's a City player. So the sooner he moves on, the better. And I can actually just like him without being like, oh yes, but I hate your team. But on an actual logical level as well, I do think it's at least a possibility he might go at the end of next season. But it's more a curiosity. I don't think it'll impact how he plays for you guys. It is more just a curiosity. Huge says, well, if Vinny leaves and goes to Arsenal, I mean, do they then accelerate? I still don't think he'd go this summer, but do they then accelerate wanting him next summer for sure? Interesting. Africa King, I think he said, to be fair, I think before he joined City, he did say Barcelona, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. But it was definitely Spain. Let me see. Wes agreeing with me. It's not like us, Wes. We normally disagree on everything. Slot played Klopp football in his first season, just dial it down a bit, and then he changed so much too quick. And I think that's a mistake Maresca won't make. So I don't think you'll fall off the way Liverpool did when Slot changed everything, because I don't think Maresca will change everything. I just also don't think Maresca is Pep. And sometimes there's things you can't put your finger on. It's just a vibe or an aura. But yeah, I'm kind of coming around to the fact that you might not fall off as much as I expected, Mr. DJ Milkshake. I'm undecided with you guys. Undecided. What else are you guys saying? Huge says, my biggest reason I don't see City challenging is because they are playing Kushinov as backup right back and there are no links to a right back. Fairs. So similar to our situation with Luke Shaw, we have other players we can shove there out of position, but we're not actually buying a left back. Yeah, and I've consistently challenged United for that for the entirety of the summer. So yes, if City are doing that, then yes, that would be a problem. If your backup right back is your centre back and you're not being linked to a right back, that's an issue. Yes, I agree. Africa King says Maresca looking like Moyes. Guess is here, but is doing some homework. Palace reckons top 5 as well. To be fair, that's what most people are between, sort of title contender and top 5. And I do think, look, we're guessing at this moment because we don't know what else is going to happen, but it was just a curiosity because I do feel like my opinion has changed over the last few days. Rob says, top 5 comfortably for me, but it's really intuition more than anything. Yeah, totally fair. Totally fair. Okay, I've got those right. I'm going forward again. We're going forward again. Manchester City's worldwide presence is bigger than everyone thinks. His brand doesn't get that much bigger moving on unless it's Real. But that's the thing. He's linked to, I thought it was Barcelona. It might be Real Madrid. And it's not, to me, it's not about image or anything like that. It's not even really a slight on City. When a player goes into a club stating, I'm going to stay for a few years and then go somewhere else, I assume they're going to stay for a few years and then go somewhere else, regardless of who the club is that they're playing for. So, for example, I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that at some point Tonali's going back to Italy because that's where he wants to be playing. Before he's even got to Spurs, he's talking about wanting to be in Italy, and the only reason he's not there is money. So I think when a player wants to go somewhere, it's not always a slight on the team they're currently with. It's just where they want to be. I think he's enjoying City, but I do think he'll move on like he said he will. I don't think he'll copy him on purpose. I don't think he'll go in and go, oh, well, this is what Pep was doing. This is what I'm going to do. I think he'll naturally have a similar style because he worked under him previously. Do you know? Because I agree with you. I think all managers have ego. I think it's part of their job. We're going to be doing them at closer to the start of the season. So we're going to be doing a full Premier League prediction show, myself and Kai from Behind the Dugouts. Kai is going to be coming back weekly with me very kindly. And for anybody who has joined us kind of throughout the summer, Kai is a Chelsea fan, but we do a weekly prediction show normally on a Friday evening where we do predictions every single week for the Premier League. But we're going to do a full season prediction as close as we can to the start of the season so we know as many of the transfers as possible, which obviously gives us a better chance at the predictions. But what I do want to give you guys, because there's a lot of people here, we have a lot of new people and a lot of people rejoining us, I do want to get you guys the FPL link. I keep thinking after the streams, I forgot to give them the FPL link. So bear with me a moment. While I get you the link. So if anybody would like to join the FPL for Spill the Tea Lou, it's called Spill the Teams instead of Spill the Tea because I'm so clever. But if you would like to join, please do get involved. The more the merrier, obviously. The more people are there, the more fun it is. So if you've got a team ready, if you want to make a team, click that link and get involved. Huge says, Barca can't afford him. Can Barca afford anything? I don't know if Barcelona can afford a packet of crisps at this point. I'm sure Haaland's base wages are already higher than anyone at Barca, let alone his bonuses. If it's where he wants to go, I think he would drop his wages. The same way Rashford was prepared to drop his wages for Barcelona, except they didn't want him. But I'd say they would want Haaland. And Palace looking forward to seeing Kai. He's been in the chat a few times recently, but we will be getting him. We will be getting him back on. We have such fun. We have such fun. For anybody who thinks I'm chaotic on my own, when Kai's on with me, it's a million times worse. He encourages the Delulu drastically. Do you know what it is? I normally start off and then I just forget about it and then I bow out. But people were asking me for it. We did a poll. We had like 70% of people voted yes. And not 70% of people have joined. So, I'm putting it out there. The more the merrier. Get involved. I've gone and made it now. But guys, that does bring us to the end of this evening's show. We went a little bit over because obviously we had a bit of a glitch there at the start with the old YouTube. YouTube needs to sort itself out because that is ongoing now, and obviously it's across multiple channels. So hopefully by tomorrow they will have fixed whatever that little loading thing is that they've got going on. I'm convinced they're doing some sort of stupid updates. But fingers crossed by tomorrow it's all going to be working again. We will be back tomorrow, guys, 12 o'clock. Thank you all very much for being here, for getting involved, for getting your comments in, your opinions, for keeping it respectful. Most important, it's actually just so much more of an enjoyable conversation without all the rage bait and like nastiness, just an actual conversation. so much more enjoyable. Ye are all fantastical. Special shout out, Rob Always United, all boxed up, the one and only Mama Flossie, for your super chats and super stickers. Very much appreciated. Smash the like if you forgot to do it on your way in. If you're new, subscribe, and just go off and enjoy the rest of your evening, people. Have a good one.